guys, welcome back to another episode of Fed Talk Show with Oladoin, where we talk about finance, entrepreneurship, and purpose. If you're a new subscriber, welcome, welcome, welcome. And if you're an existing subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. And today's episode on finance, I have here with me a brand and communication expert, Mr. Taiwo Oluwafemi. Thank you so much, sir,
Thank you very
for
much.
honoring our invitation. It's so nice having you around.
Thank you very much, Oladoin. It's nice to be here.
Okay, sir, so please tell us a little details about yourself.
My name is Taiwo Oluwafemi. I'm the head of marketing and communications. I work with Taj Bank Limited in Nigeria. I'm the second of 4 children. And what else do I say? Yes, I love football and I love basketball.
Wow. Yes, so moving on to today's topic on finance, we're talking on debt management.
Okay.
So the importance and the way to reduce debts in the society. So especially in the area of finance. So sir, what do you understand by debt?
Also, thank you very much, Oladoin, once again. Debts pretty much can pretty much in layman terms be said to be incurring some costs that you don't have enough to pay for.
Okay.
So you just go, for example, you borrow and you don't have enough to offset what you have borrowed from. So that's pretty much the layman terms for what debt means.
Yes. So what is managing the debt?
Yeah, so pretty much debt management simply talks about the professional way of trying to see how you can work within a budget using financial planning and budgeting so that you do not get to borrow above what you cannot pay. Yes, so it's more of it's pretty much a clear case of effective planning and budgeting so that when eventually you go into a debt process, you have a plan on how to pay off on debt. So that's pretty much what debt management is.
How do we reduce debt? I know there's no way you want to totally eradicate the fact that you have to borrow from people, but how can we reduce it?
Well, to reduce debt simply means, there are numerous ways of how you can reduce debt. Right now when you hear people going into certain businesses, a lot of people will just advise that you go and speak to your family and friends first of all, before you go to a bank. And the reason is because when you go to family and friends, you have a longer leeway to be able to pay off. But when you go to a bank, for example, the bank usually incurs certain interests and all that. More like that's by collaterals on that. So they use that to now increase what you would have initially paid. And how do you reduce debts? Typically, it's just majorly is planning, and another direction is effective budgeting. So when you want to take a debt, for example, maybe for a business, you would have already calculated, okay, this is how much I want to take, this is how much I have to pay back in the period of so and so time. I hope to have cleared it. So that's a plan. And then budgeting is, okay, so I earn maybe 10,000 naira and I want to take a debt of 50,000 naira. How will I pay back the 50,000 naira? So when you earn 10,000, you can just say, okay, you know what, I can pay 5,000 or I can pay 2,500. So it's pretty much more of effective planning and budgeting that you can use to offset debt.
Okay. Do you have samples on how to lay a well-prepared plan to pay debt?
So I'll just pretty much give a real life example.
Okay.
I remember, I currently work in one of the banks, and before where I worked, I used to work in a previous organization, and that organization, there's this saying that they always say bankers live on loans. But usually it's not really that. It's just pretty much a case, okay, yes, I'm going to take a loan. How do I offset the loan within a particular space of time? So back to my story, it actually happened where I really needed to offset my house rent, and unfortunately I didn't have the cash right there on me. and it was just a period of a month before the landlord kept calling. So what I did was that I approached my bank back then and said, okay, you know what, I want to take a loan of so and so particular amount of money. And then they gave me certain documentations, bring this, bring that, bring this, bring that, which I all provided everything because I really needed that loan. And the loan was, I mean, the debt was spread for a period of 12 months. So that pretty much just helped me to actually just do my plan. So say I was earning 120,000 and I collected a loan of 500,000. So what I did was that, okay, I'm earning 120,000, I'll probably just pay back 50, 50, 50, to be able to clear it. So by the time you schedule 50,000 times 10 months, you've already hit 500,000. So that was pretty much how.
But there was interest.
Yes, there was interest. So what usually happens is that it depends on the firm. So usually you hear that if you're in a bank, if you work in a particular organization, maybe preferably a bank, you have the particular bank rates that you pay. But if you're not working in the bank and you want to take a loan, you actually pay the corporate rate. So that it totally varies. So for example, the bank could be 2% for a staff, but the outside one but the corporate one should be like 25, 23, 19, depending on the organization you're taking the loan from. So what I just did was that I eventually paid it off in 11 months because the first 10 months was to clear the 500,000. Then the last month was to take out the interest. So
but I want to ask, is it possible not to borrow from bank and from friends? And you need the money urgently. Is it possible?
Well, in the times that we live in, it's usually, except you are Elijah, the Bible that we have prayed and God just intervenes. So yes, it's possible in some cases. I won't say it's not possible. It's very possible when you need money, you don't know where to go to, and then you can actually get certain assistance. But most times, people just rely on friends, family, or they go to the bank to help with that particular need because there are needs that arise. It could be, for example, you're here with your children, all of a sudden you don't have enough in your savings account and there's an emergency, one of the child falls down and is bleeding or breaks his or her leg, and then you need an urgent. So in those kind of scenarios, it's either family or friends, or after all, you need you go into the bank to rescue. But usually more people would go to either family or friends or go to the bank. But other cases, if it's not so sure, some people can decide to even just say, okay, you know what, I have this person, but I'm going to trust God or whoever I serve, and then they end up not going to pay. Incur such debts. But those are actually in rare occasions. Yeah. They're not really in the times that we need it, but it still does happen.
Yes, true. But okay, now let's go to your own personal story. How were you able to manage and reduce debt?
So I would just give the house rent story that I mentioned. So my house rent was about 500,000 and I was earning about 120,000. So for me, what I did was that, okay, I actually met family and friends and said, okay, you know what, I would pay back at this point. The good thing about getting help from family and friends is that you don't have so much interest. Some friends will just say, okay, Taiwo, if I give you 100, for example, if I give 100,000, you pay me back 120. Or you give me 100, you pay me back 105. It's better than you say you're going to collect a huge loan from the bank and then you now pay 15%.
Sorry, which one pressures more?
Which one?
Pressures more. Because I know banks. Yes, because I know banks have their problem. Even friends too have their problem.
Yeah, true. But to be honest, I would say banks pressure more. And the reason why I say that is, so there's something we call the MPR, which is monetary payment ratio, and that's pretty much just talks about level of payments actually in percentages. So recently it was increased from 11% to 13%. Now what that does in the bank industry, so for example, you who took a loan from the bank, maybe you took the loan in last year 2021 and you took maybe like 15 million, and then by the time they did their calculations, you're supposed to pay back a loan, pay back interest of like 12%, for example. Because of that increase, you will likely be paying 15% now
Wow.
in interest, But it's not the same for some other banking models. So, for example, some of the non-interest banking models, it doesn't work like that. But the major conventional banks, that's how it actually applies. So, so pretty much it's usually more of the bank that actually pay off. So,
Especially microfinance bank.
especially, and then sometimes if you, for example, I would just say in that scenario, you would realize that the banks actually, the pressure is more from the bank and with than even your friends. You could borrow 100,000 from your friend, and your friend say, okay, when do you want to pay back? I say, I'll give it by the end of the month. Sometimes you even realize that even when your friend is starting to pay back, they might not even give the full thing to you.
Yeah.
So you know what? Just let me pay you 50. But those ones you can easily. But if you're paying for the bank, you dare not tell the bank that you want to. So that's pretty much how it works out.
Okay. So sorry to cut you short. No, you were saying something before I asked.
Okay, that's the house rent. Yeah. So actually, so what I did was that I went to the bank and I took a loan of about 600 then. The rent was 500, but I took a loan of 600. And the reason why I took that 600 is because I don't just go and collect whole full rent and just go and pay. But what initially happened, immediately I made that payment and I had another 1 year to pay another rent, I started doing my planning. So what I did was that every month I had to drop some of my post-dated checks, and spend in a particular amount of money that had the interest incurred. So in nowadays terms, you go to the bank, you say you want to take a loan, and they usually print a document of how you will pay back. So usually that's how you now address it on your post-dated checks.
Okay.
So it was the post-dated checks and deposited for about 12 months. So during that period, it wasn't really easy because there are times that certain things can also come up and you're like, where do I get money from budget? So, but that really just helped me to ensure that for the next 12 months, there wasn't any extravagant purchase or any extravagant outing because I knew that I was working with a budget.
Yes.
So, if in the previous year, according to your size, so that was how I was able. So, in 12 months' time, I was able to offset everything and then I still had something for myself, to be able to cushion the effect.
I'm very sure your story will help someone to cut down, especially when you know that you are working with a budget, to cut down expenses.
Yeah.
That can help people in managing debt in the area of their finance.
Definitely.
So, sir, what's your general advice to viewers?
Oh, well, so my general advice to viewers is if you can, it might be difficult, but if you can, don't go, don't
borrow.
don't borrow. That's the whole idea.
Don't borrow.
If you can, don't borrow. Just cut your quotes according to your size. If you know this is what you have, this is what you earn, plan with that so that you don't get to that case of getting broke. Because there are organizations now who they are termed as loan sharks. You borrow money from them. You're supposed to pay a particular period, and then they start coming. Some get to the point where they will even seize your entire house.
Yes.
Seize your gem, seize your car, start sending texts. So if you can, and if you can, don't borrow. Just manage what you have. Cultivate the habit of budgeting, the habit of effective financial planning, so that you don't have to get to that point where you have to borrow. But if you must borrow, then reach out to family and friends. Definitely, if you need to do something urgent and you reach out to your parents, for example, your parents will most likely be the best, or your siblings. Reach out to your inner circle of family before you reach out to friends. The last option, the last option should be the bank. Not that I'm trying to say anything, because at the end of the day, a lot of people's life have been better because of the loans they've collected from the bank. Yeah, but let that be a last option. First of all, try not to borrow. Second of all, if you have to meet family, meet friends, and then if it has to be, if family and friends can't come through, then yes, you can go to the bank.
They're not just bank. I think any of these loan companies too.
Yes, exactly.
That one is the worst.
As you know, I mean, a lot of people have had experiences, and most of those experiences are unpleasant experiences. Really unpleasant experiences. So if you can avoid it, please just avoid it.
I'm even surprised how they get their relative number. They will just, even their friend's number, they will just send message, this person is owing if they don't pay off.
Yeah, because you know, the thing is that when you go to a loan shark to pay, most of the documents, parts of the documentation also includes guarantor. You know, so definitely you have to provide a list. I'll give you an example. I have a twin, so my twin brother had a staff who even went to take a loan from a loan shark, and part of the documentation was that he needed to provide guarantor. So he put my brother's name as part of his guarantor, and I think they told him, you know, at a space of 6 months. But you know, sometimes when you are really pressed, you just okay, you know. So I think that was the scenario for him. So he just took the loan and went. 6 months after, he couldn't pay back, you know. And after a month, he started calling my brother. I had no idea what was going on. My brother reached out to me and said, "Taiwo, that guess what?" I said, "What?" He said, this, that. Remember that guy? And I was like, really? So how much are they asking for? And we're asking, they say that they're asking for about 30,000. I'm like, you know, so it's a case where because the guy has my brother as a guarantor, he just slotted his name and his number, so it was easy for them to actually reach out. So that in those kind of scenarios, they can even be sending text messages to my brother on that particular guy. So those are usually
I received messages like that. And I'm like, I don't know that this person joked my number.
No, that's you know, and the painful thing is that a lot of these people, because they need that money on time, a lot of them won't call you and tell you what it is that they want to do. You know, they just drop your number and then you just like, what's going on here? When you start seeing text messages and so on, you're like, I don't even, you know, so I'm not even aware of this, you know, so that's pretty much just happened. So if you can avoid, please avoid, and if you must, reach out to family, reach out to friends. The bank should be there.
Don't even borrow, please.
That in fact, the ultimate, just cut your budget, just plan effectively, budget effectively, try as much as you can not to borrow.
There's no point being under unnecessary pressure just because you want to meet up to a standard.
Exactly.
Just day your day.
No, that's it.
That's what they say. Just
day your day. Because the truth about it, sometimes you see some ladies of nowadays, you know, there's a new hairstyle going, and you know, they want to feel among, they want to be among their friends. You know, your friend has a boyfriend, for example, who is footing her views, buying her the latest hairstyles, latest phones. You know, you cannot afford it.
Yes.
Your parents cannot afford it. You know, and because of that, you either go and do all kinds of things, or you go take a loan. You know, I've heard some very strange cases where people went to take loan just because they wanted to buy hair, or take loan because they wanted to buy car. Buy phone. And you're asking yourself that what kind of planning is that? You know, because at the end of the day, is the children are the ones that. So by the time so if there are things that are, if you have like one or two hairs and you need to buy four, just manage the two. By the time you work on it very well, you still look very presentable. You know, not being a burden to yourself and putting yourself under undue pressure. So if you, the most important thing, do not borrow. If you can, don't borrow.
If you cannot even buy wig, plait hair.
And carry your hair. You still look presentable. You know, there's a saying that says beauty lies in the eye. So whichever hair you carry, as long as someone is supposed to be, he will eventually they will still you know, but people just want to even go the extra mile, thereby living beyond their means, and then it just most times sends the wrong message.
Yes, that's very true.
So that's actually.
Thank you so much, sir, for the advice, your story. I'm very sure a lot of youths, we are the one that need this video more, because we are the one that is trying to meet up to what we are not yet. Our parents they've gone past us years. We are just the one trying to feel among now. So I'm very sure someone will take up this video and will learn from it. Thank you so much for this privilege of having you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Oladoyin. It was nice being on the show and also giving advice to those who actually require it. So thank you for having me.
Welcome, sir. Yes, so please don't forget to subscribe. Click on the notification bell to always get notified anytime a video is being uploaded. Like, share with your friends. This is very important. Thank you so much. See you next week, Monday.